My friend's intelligence is not just about how high your IQ is. It's about how deep your understanding is. It's not about how many books you've read. It's about how many battles you've fought within yourself. An intelligent woman is not someone who wins every argument. She's someone who knows which arguments are not worth her energy. She doesn't need to prove herself because she already knows herself. And today, I want to share with you the 8 habits of such a woman. Habits that don't just make her smart, but make her spiritually intelligent, emotionally balanced, and beautifully human. So sit back, open your heart, because this may not just change how you see women, it may change how you see yourself. She listens more than she speaks. That's not just a sentence, it's a secret art of living. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, where conversations have turned into competitions, an intelligent woman chooses silence as her strength. She understands that every time she listens deeply, she learns something new about others, about life, and even about herself. Her silence is not weakness, it's wisdom dressed in calmness. Think about how rare true listening has become. People interrupt before the other finishes. They plan their next sentence before the other completes theirs. But she doesn't. She waits, she absorbs, and she understands. Because she knows listening is not just about hearing words. It's about feeling the emotion behind them. When someone speaks with pain, she doesn't just listen with her ears, she listens with her heart. When someone talks with excitement, she matches their energy with a smile. Listening, for her, is not an act, it's a gift she offers to others. Let's take a simple example. Imagine 2 friends having coffee. One is constantly talking about her problems, her day, her thoughts. The other, the intelligent woman, simply listens, nods, smiles, and doesn't rush to give advice. She knows most people don't want solutions, they just want someone to understand. And when her friend finishes, she feels lighter, relieved, and grateful. That's the power of being a good listener. You heal others without saying a word. There's a story of a lady I once met after a seminar. She told me, Gaur Gopal Das ji, I used to talk so much. I never gave my husband or my children a chance to speak. One day my daughter said, Mom, do you ever get tired of talking? That line hit me like lightning. She said from that day, she began listening more. At first it was hard. She laughed, but slowly I started hearing things I never heard before. My son's fears, my husband's silent love, my own inner voice. And with tears in her eyes, she said, when I started listening, I started understanding life better. That's what happens when we learn to listen. We connect with life in a deeper way. Because words can mislead, but silence often reveals the truth. Intelligent women have this natural ability to read between the lines, to sense what's not being said. When someone says, I'm fine, she hears the hidden sadness in their tone. When someone says, don't worry about me, she senses the unspoken plea for help. That kind of listening doesn't come from the mind, it comes from the heart. Listening also helps her make wiser decisions. She doesn't jump to conclusions. She gathers all sides of the story, understands the perspectives, and then acts with clarity. That's why her actions rarely create chaos, because they come from understanding, not reaction. When everyone around her is shouting, she stays still, observing. When everyone wants to be right, she wants to be kind. That's intelligence. To listen, to pause, and to choose peace over ego. Even in her professional life, this habit makes her stand out. While others talk over each other in meetings to prove they're smart, she listens quietly and then speaks one meaningful sentence that silences the room. People turn to her because her words come from reflection, not impulse. She listens not to reply, but to respond with value. That's why when she speaks, people listen. In relationships too, her listening becomes love. Her partner feels respected. Her friends feel understood. Her children feel safe. She doesn't rush to fix everything. She gives space for others to be heard. And you know what's magical? The more she listens, the more she earns trust. People confide in her, not because she always has answers, but because she makes them feel seen. In a world starving for attention, she gives the gift of presence. Listening also transforms her inner world. When she sits alone, she listens to the whispers of her mind, the rhythm of her breath, the voice of her soul. She reflects on her experiences and learns from them. Instead of running from her emotions, she listens to what they're trying to teach her. When she's sad, she asks herself, "What is this feeling showing me?" When she's angry, she listens before reacting. Slowly, this awareness becomes her superpower. She begins to hear what others miss. The quiet wisdom life is always speaking. Sometimes she listens even to nature. The sound of the rain reminds her of renewal. The wind teaches her freedom. The silence of the night teaches her peace. Every sound becomes a lesson. Every pause becomes prayer. She's not in a hurry to fill the silence. She knows that sometimes silence says more than words ever can. That's why when she finally speaks, her words carry power, because they come from stillness, from thoughtfulness, from depth. People stop scrolling, stop rushing, and listen, because they can feel that what she says comes from a place of understanding. Listening makes her wise, and wisdom makes her radiant. So yes, she listens more than she speaks. But that doesn't make her less, it makes her limitless. Because by listening, she connects, she learns, and she grows. Every time she chooses to listen, she chooses love over ego, understanding over judgment, and patience over pride. And in doing so, she becomes a mirror in which others see their own truth. That is what makes an intelligent woman truly extraordinary. Not how loudly she speaks, but how deeply she listens. Her silence is her strength, her attention is her compassion, and her understanding is her intelligence. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, she stands out by being the one who truly hears. She values her peace over people's opinions. And that is one of the most powerful forms of intelligence a woman can ever possess. You see, in this world, everyone has an opinion about who you should be, what you should wear, how you should live, and what you should dream. The noise is constant. Social media, family expectations, society's standards. Everyone seems to have a voice in your story except you. But an intelligent woman, she doesn't live for applause, she lives for alignment. She doesn't let opinions dictate her direction. She lets peace guide her purpose. There's a quiet kind of strength in her. She doesn't need to announce every move or defend every choice. She simply smiles, stays grounded, and moves forward with grace. Because she knows one simple truth: People's opinions change like seasons, but her peace is her forever home. She has learned that no matter what she does, someone will always have something to say. If she's quiet, they'll call her arrogant. If she speaks her mind, they'll call her loud. If she focuses on her career, they'll call her selfish. If she prioritizes her family, they'll call her unambitious. So instead of playing that endless game of approval, she decided to step out of it entirely. She realized that when you stop chasing validation, you start chasing peace. And that's when life truly begins. I remember meeting a young woman once who told me, I used to change myself constantly just to make everyone happy. I dressed differently for my friends, spoke differently for my family, and even hid my true dreams so I wouldn't be judged. But the more I tried to please everyone, the more I lost myself. Her voice trembled when she said, one day, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize who I'd become. That's when she decided to stop living for others and start living in peace with herself. Today she says no when she needs to. She walks away from drama, and she no longer apologizes for protecting her energy. Her peace became her priority, and with that peace, she found her true power. When you start valuing your peace, something magical happens. You no longer react to every comment or criticism. You learn the art of detachment, not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself more. You understand that not every opinion deserves a response, not every insult deserves a reaction, and not every situation deserves your presence. The intelligent woman knows this deeply. She chooses silence where others choose argument. She chooses calm where others choose chaos. It's not because she can't fight. It's because she knows peace wins battles that words never will. Have you ever seen someone completely at peace? Their energy is soft but strong. They walk into a room and the chaos somehow settles. That's what happens when peace becomes your personality. You don't have to prove anything. Your calmness says it all. People who used to misunderstand her now observe her quietly. They may still talk, but their words no longer touch her heart because she's built boundaries that protect her soul. She's learned that sometimes walking away isn't losing, it's choosing yourself. Let's imagine a simple situation. Someone criticizes her online, a harsh comment, a judgment, maybe even a rumor. The old version of her might have replied, defended herself, or lost sleep thinking about it. But now, she smiles, takes a deep breath, and says to herself, their words reflect who they are, not who I am. That small sentence gives her freedom, because she's no longer controlled by what others think. She knows that her peace is too precious to hand over to people who don't even know her heart. Peace doesn't mean her life is perfect. It means she has learned to remain centered even when life is imperfect. She could be going through challenges, heartbreaks, or failures, but you'll still find her calm. Because her peace doesn't depend on circumstances, it comes from within. She's trained her mind to stay still, her heart to stay kind, and her soul to stay grateful. That inner stability makes her unshakable. In relationships too, she values peace over drama. She doesn't chase toxic people to prove her worth. She doesn't argue endlessly just to win. She understands that some people are only meant to teach her lessons, not stay forever. So she blesses them, forgives silently, and moves on. Because peace is not something you find outside, it's something you protect inside. And sometimes protecting that peace means closing some doors, even if it hurts. In her career, she doesn't let competition disturb her calm. She focuses on progress, not pressure. She doesn't compare her chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. She believes in timing, patience, and grace. When things go wrong, she doesn't panic, she pauses. Because she knows that worry never adds value, but peace always brings clarity. What truly inspires people about her is how she carries herself. She can be standing in a storm, but she looks composed. She can be surrounded by noise, but she radiates quiet confidence. It's not that she never feels fear or doubt. It's just that she doesn't let them control her peace. Her mind is her sacred space, and she guards it fiercely. She doesn't entertain gossip, negativity, or judgmental conversations, because she knows that the energy you allow is the life you create. And the beautiful part, her peace becomes contagious. People feel calmer around her. Friends say, "I don't know what it is, but being near you feels peaceful." That's when she realizes valuing peace isn't selfish, it's service. Because when you're at peace, you spread peace. You heal people just by being yourself. So she keeps choosing peace again and again. When the world tests her patience, she chooses peace. When people misunderstand her intentions, she chooses peace. When life throws her into chaos, she chooses peace. Not because it's easy, but because she knows her inner peace is her greatest treasure. And no opinion, no rumor, no judgment is worth losing that. An intelligent woman doesn't need to prove that she's right. She just needs to stay true to herself. Her peace is her answer, her silence is her strength, and her happiness is her success. She lives by one rule: if it costs her peace, it's too expensive. And so she walks through life gracefully, unbothered, unshaken, and utterly free, because she has learned that the most beautiful sound in the world is the sound of her own peace. She keeps growing even when nobody notices. That's the silent beauty of a truly intelligent woman. In a world obsessed with visibility, she finds joy in the unseen. She doesn't need applause, spotlight, or validation to evolve. Her journey is not for show, it's for the soul. While many people are busy showing progress on the outside, she focuses on transforming from the inside. She understands that true growth is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, private, and deeply personal. There's something incredibly powerful about the way she grows. She doesn't wait for the perfect moment or the right motivation. She learns in silence, heals in silence, and becomes stronger in silence. People might not notice her transformation immediately, but one day, she shines so brightly that everyone wonders, when did she become this confident, calm, and wise? They didn't see the nights she cried, the mornings she struggled to get up, or the moments she doubted herself, but she never stopped moving forward. That's her strength, consistency without recognition. Growth for her is not about comparison. She doesn't look at others and feel behind. She looks at herself from yesterday and asks, "Am I becoming better?" And even if the answer is a small yes, she celebrates it. Maybe she learned to stay calm in a situation that once triggered her. Maybe she forgave someone she thought she never could. Maybe she finally started taking care of her body or mind. Those little victories are invisible to others, but sacred to her, because growth doesn't always show in achievements. Sometimes it shows in attitude. I once met a woman who told me, "Every day I do one thing to grow. I read a page, I meditate for 5 minutes, or I simply reflect." I asked her, "Don't you feel discouraged when no one notices your efforts?" She smiled and said, "I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me." That line stayed with me, because that's what intelligence looks like. Doing what's right, even when nobody claps for you. She knows that flowers don't bloom for attention. They bloom because that's their nature. She believes in the process, not the praise. Every failure becomes her teacher. Every pain becomes her lesson. When life throws challenges her way, she doesn't say, "Why me?" She says, "What can I learn from this?" Even when things don't go as planned, she trusts that growth is still happening beneath the surface. Like roots growing underground, invisible yet essential. Her mindset is her magic. She turns every struggle into strength, every setback into setup for something greater. Let's take a daily life example. Imagine she's working in an office where no one notices her extra effort. Others get credit. She gets ignored. In the past, that might have frustrated her, but now she smiles and says, "It's okay," because she knows that even if the world doesn't see her effort, life does. She uses that situation to polish her patience, to build her resilience, and to strengthen her character. She grows not just in skill but in maturity. Even in relationships, she keeps growing. She no longer waits for others to change. She changes how she reacts. She doesn't let bitterness define her heart. Instead of saying, "People hurt me," she says, "They taught me." Every heartbreak makes her more compassionate. Every disappointment makes her more discerning. She keeps learning the art of letting go, the power of forgiveness, and the beauty of self-love. And though no one might praise her for it, she knows that's where real growth happens. In the quiet corners of the heart. Her growth also shows in how she handles uncertainty. While others panic when plans fall apart, she pauses. She takes a breath and reminds herself, "This is also part of my growth." She knows that sometimes growth means staying still. Not every season is about blooming. Some seasons are about becoming rooted. When life slows down, she doesn't complain. She uses that time to reflect, to rebuild, to recharge. Because she understands that even in silence, transformation continues. She doesn't post every success online, doesn't broadcast every step she takes. Her victories are often invisible, like waking up after a tough night and choosing gratitude anyway. Like facing a fear she once avoided. Like saying no to something that disturbs her peace. These are small moments that no one applauds, but they shape her into someone stronger, wiser, and freer. And one day, people will notice. They'll look at her and say, "You've changed." And she'll smile, not because she needed them to see it, but because she finally sees it in herself. That's the beauty of growing quietly. You stop living for recognition and start living in realization. You no longer chase validation because your confidence now comes from within. Her journey reminds us that true growth is not a race, it's a rhythm. It's waking up every day and choosing to be better, even if nobody acknowledges it. It's choosing peace over pride, gratitude over complaints, and patience over pressure. It's reading a book instead of scrolling, choosing forgiveness instead of revenge, staying kind even when life isn't. She has learned that those who grow quietly grow deeply because their roots are not built for show, they're built for strength. When storms come, she bends but doesn't break. When people doubt her, she doesn't argue, she lets time speak. And time always reveals what quiet growth creates: character, grace, and wisdom. So she continues day by day, step by step, silently transforming. She no longer needs to explain her journey to anyone. The world might not see her progress, but she feels it in her calmness, in her confidence, in her peace. And that's enough, because she knows growth is not meant to be seen, it's meant to be felt. And when she finally blooms, it won't be a surprise to her, because she knows how much work went into those unseen seasons. While the world sees the flower, she remembers the roots, the struggle, the patience, the faith. That's what makes her intelligent, not because she grows fast, but because she grows true. And that's the kind of growth that lasts forever. She masters her emotions. That's what truly sets an intelligent woman apart. In a world where people are ruled by reactions, she chooses to be ruled by reflection. She understands that emotions are powerful, but uncontrolled emotions can destroy peace, relationships, and even self-respect. She doesn't suppress her feelings. She studies them, understands them, and then transforms them. That's emotional intelligence, to feel deeply, but respond wisely. She has learned that being emotional is not a weakness, it's strength under control. There was a time when she, like many others, would get easily triggered. A rude comment could ruin her mood, a disagreement could ruin her day, and a failure could make her question her worth. But over time, she realized something profound. Emotions are like waves. You can't stop them from coming, but you can learn how to surf them. So instead of drowning in her feelings, she started learning how to ride them. When anger rises, she pauses. When sadness hits, she reflects. When anxiety tries to take over, she breathes. That small pause between emotion and reaction has become her superpower. I remember a story of a woman who once shared, "I used to cry over everything, a harsh word, a small mistake, a broken expectation. One day I asked myself, why do I give so much power to others to decide how I feel?" That question changed her life. She started practicing calmness like it was an art. When someone insulted her, she smiled instead of shouting. When life disappointed her, she thanked it for teaching her resilience. She said, "Mastering my emotions didn't make me cold, it made me free." And that's what mastery does. It frees you from being controlled by temporary feelings. An intelligent woman doesn't deny her emotions, she embraces them with awareness. When she's angry, she doesn't explode, she explores. She asks herself, what's hurting me beneath this anger? When she's sad, she doesn't hide it. She allows herself to feel, but she doesn't let sadness define her. When she's happy, she doesn't depend on it. She enjoys it fully, knowing life moves in cycles. She's learned to stay balanced, not emotionless, but emotionally mature. Think of daily life examples. Imagine she's at work and someone unfairly criticizes her project. The easy reaction would be anger or defensiveness. But she pauses, takes a breath, and responds calmly. Later, she reviews the feedback objectively, not to prove the critic wrong, but to see if there's any truth she can use to improve. That's mastery. It's not about avoiding emotions, it's about directing them with intelligence. Or when she faces an argument at home, instead of shouting louder to win, she lowers her voice to understand. Because she knows shouting might win the moment, but calmness wins respect. Even in moments of heartbreak, her emotional mastery shines. When someone leaves her, betrays her, or disappoints her, she doesn't let bitterness take root. She allows herself to grieve, to cry, to feel, but after that she lets go. She knows holding on to pain only hurts herself. So she releases it gracefully, not because it didn't matter, but because she matters more. Forgiveness for her is not about others deserving peace. It's about her deserving freedom. She also understands that emotions are signals, not commands. They're messages from the heart, not orders from the mind. When she feels jealousy, she looks inward and asks, "What is this teaching me about gratitude?" When she feels fear, she reminds herself, "This is life pushing me toward growth." When she feels love, she doesn't lose herself, she expands herself. That's emotional wisdom, transforming raw feelings into refined understanding. There's a story of a lotus flower that grows in muddy water. The mud never touches its petals, even though it grows from it. That's how she lives. The world around her can be chaotic, but she stays centered. Negativity might surround her, but it never defines her. She knows that peace doesn't mean having no storms. It means being calm even in the middle of one. Her emotions are like rivers. They flow, they move, they refresh, but they never flood her soul. Her emotional mastery also makes her kind. Because she understands her own feelings so deeply, she understands others too. When someone is rude, she doesn't take it personally. She sees their pain behind their behavior. When someone is distant, she doesn't chase. She gives them space. She knows everyone is fighting silent battles. So instead of judging, she chooses compassion. That's why people trust her. Because her calmness feels safe, her presence feels healing. Even in moments of failure, she doesn't crumble. She might feel disappointment, yes, but she doesn't let it destroy her confidence. She tells herself, "This is not the end, this is experience." She cries if she needs to, but she never stays down for long. Her emotions visit her, but they never stay uninvited. She has learned to rise again and again, softer, wiser, stronger. Her calmness doesn't mean she doesn't feel. It means she feels everything, but controls how she expresses it. It's not suppression, it's transformation. Because she knows reacting in anger might hurt relationships, but responding with calmness can heal them. She knows that saying something in anger might take a few seconds, but its regret might last for years. So she chooses silence when words can wound, and speaks only when words can heal. Her emotional mastery also gives her clarity. When her mind is calm, she makes better decisions. She doesn't rush into choices out of excitement or fear. She listens to her inner voice, the quiet wisdom within her, and then moves. That's why her steps are steady, her actions thoughtful, and her results lasting. She doesn't live by impulse. She lives by intention. And yes, there are days when she feels overwhelmed. She's human after all. But even then, she doesn't break down, she bends with grace. She knows emotions are like weather. They change, they pass. So she doesn't resist them, she flows with them. And that's why she never gets stuck, she evolves. To master emotions is to master life. Because the one who can control their emotions can control their destiny. She has learned that her peace, her happiness, her energy, all depend on how she manages what she feels. So she stays calm not because life is easy, but because she's learned that chaos loses power when peace takes charge. Her intelligence lies not in knowing everything, but in managing herself in every situation. She feels deeply, but she doesn't drown. She loves freely, but she doesn't lose herself. She hurts sometimes, but she always heals. Because she has mastered the most powerful skill of all, the art of emotional balance. And that makes her not just strong, but beautifully unshakable. She walks away with grace, and that, perhaps, is one of the most elegant forms of strength a woman can ever carry. Walking away doesn't always mean giving up. Sometimes it means growing up. It means choosing peace over pressure, dignity over drama, and self-respect over pleasing others. An intelligent woman knows when something no longer serves her, no longer nurtures her soul, and no longer aligns with her values. And when she realizes that she doesn't create chaos, she simply leaves silently, peacefully, gracefully. There's a quiet kind of power in knowing when to walk away. It takes far more strength to step back than to keep fighting for something that only hurts you. She understands that not every door that closes is a loss, some are divine redirections. She doesn't cling to people or situations, trying to make them stay. She's learned that forcing things only breaks her own spirit. So when life whispers, "It's time to move on," she listens. She doesn't slam the door, she gently closes it and wishes peace upon whatever she leaves behind. Many people mistake walking away for weakness, but she knows it's one of the hardest things to do. To look at something you once loved deeply, smile, and still say, "This is no longer for me." It takes courage to choose silence over argument, distance over drama, and self-worth over attachment. But she's learned that love doesn't mean holding on at all costs. Sometimes, love means letting go. And letting go doesn't mean she stopped caring, it means she started caring about herself too. I once met a woman who told me about her experience working in a toxic environment. She said, every day I would come home drained, anxious, and sad. I thought leaving would make me a failure, but staying was slowly killing my confidence. One day, she decided to resign. It was the hardest decision, she said, but also the most freeing one. The moment she walked out, she didn't feel like she lost something. She felt like she found herself again. That's what happens when you walk away with grace. You reclaim your power, your peace, and your purpose. Walking away gracefully doesn't mean she doesn't feel pain. She does, deeply. But she doesn't let pain make her bitter. She thanks the experience, learns the lesson, and releases the burden. She doesn't curse what hurt her. She blesses it for making her wiser. She knows that carrying resentment only keeps her tied to the past. So instead of looking back with anger, she looks forward with gratitude. She whispers to herself, "What's meant for me will never make me beg." That faith gives her strength to keep walking, even when her heart is heavy. In relationships too, she knows when to stop trying. When respect fades, when effort becomes one-sided, when communication turns into conflict. She doesn't fight to prove her worth. She knows her worth doesn't need proof. So she walks away, not to punish, but to protect her peace. She doesn't seek revenge, she seeks recovery. She doesn't run away in bitterness, she walks away in wisdom. Her silence speaks louder than any argument could. There's a story of a butterfly trapped in a glass jar. It kept flying into the glass again and again, trying to escape, hurting itself each time. One day, the lid was removed, but the butterfly didn't fly away. It had become used to the struggle. Many people live like that, trapped in toxic habits, unhealthy relationships, or painful cycles, forgetting that they have the power to leave. But the intelligent woman doesn't stay trapped. When she realizes the door is open, she flies out, gracefully, without noise, without explanation. Even in friendships, she knows her boundaries. If someone constantly drains her energy, disrespects her, or brings negativity, she doesn't engage in endless explanations. She simply distances herself with kindness. Because she knows real friends don't make you question your worth. She would rather walk alone in peace than walk with a crowd that disturbs her soul. And in doing so, she inspires others to do the same, to stop begging for love and start choosing self-respect. Her ability to walk away with grace also shows in how she deals with failure. When something she worked hard for doesn't succeed, she doesn't hold on to disappointment. She accepts, reflects, and redirects. She knows not every path is meant to lead to victory. Some are meant to lead to growth. Instead of complaining, she says, "This chapter is complete." And she turns the page gracefully. Because she trusts that new beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. There's beauty in how she leaves things. She doesn't burn bridges, she simply walks across them once and never looks back. She doesn't speak ill of those she's left behind. Her silence is her statement. She knows that dignity doesn't come from how loudly you defend yourself, but from how quietly you carry yourself. That's what makes her unforgettable. Her calm departure leaves more impact than anger ever could. In daily life, imagine her sitting in a conversation that turns toxic. People gossip, criticize, argue. Instead of joining in, she smiles, stands up, and leaves. No harsh words, no explanations, just peace. Later, someone asks, "Why did you leave?" She replies softly, "Because not everything deserves my presence." That's grace. Choosing peace even when chaos invites you in. She walks away not just from people, but also from habits, thoughts, and environments that no longer align with who she's becoming. She doesn't let guilt hold her back. She knows that outgrowing things doesn't mean she's selfish. It means she's evolving. The intelligent woman understands that sometimes the most powerful move you can make is simply walking away quietly from anything that costs your inner harmony. Her grace, while walking away, comes from deep understanding. She doesn't need to prove anyone wrong or make anyone regret losing her. She knows time reveals truth. So she leaves everything to time, trusting that what's real will remain and what's not will fade. And as she walks away, she carries no anger, only wisdom, no revenge, only peace. Walking away gracefully is not an act of pride, it's an act of self-love. It's knowing when to end something before it ends you. It's realizing that some doors must close for better ones to open. It's choosing yourself without guilt, peace without explanation, and faith without fear. And that's what makes her truly powerful, not how tightly she holds on, but how gracefully she lets go. Because at the end of the day, walking away is not about running from something, it's about returning to yourself. And when she does that, she doesn't just survive, she rises. She becomes a living example of quiet strength, reminding the world that sometimes the most beautiful thing a woman can do is walk away, not in anger, but in absolute peace.